If you grew up with these, you might be old. Ready to relive the days when wish books fueled our dreams, the TV ended each night with the national anthem, and Grandma's plastic-covered couch squeaked under every move? In this video, we're dusting off the memories that defined growing up in simpler times. Settle in, and let's take a heartfelt journey through moments that still make us smile. Family in a wagon. Remember those long road trips in the family car? Back then, a car was more than just a means of transportation. For us, the old big station wagon was a true mobile playground, a miniature world full of stories and mischief. They could carry an entire army of us kids, a bunch of energetic, restless children, none of whom bothered with seatbelts. Try to imagine it. No air conditioning, no modern gadgets to distract. Just windows rolled all the way down, letting the wind caress our hair, carrying the smell of grass and asphalt. That feeling of freedom, when you could stick your hand out and let the wind flow through your fingers, feeling the movement of the car on the open road, that was an unforgettable experience. The giggles, the whispers, and even the small arguments all created a vivid picture of those trips back then. Memories of the family car, those carefree moments, surely remain clear in the minds of many of us. Trading stamps. Many of us surely still remember those trading stamps, right? It was an era where every shopping trip wasn't just about paying and leaving, but also a hunt for rewards. S&H green stamps and blue chip were the two most popular types, familiar symbols distributed everywhere, from bustling grocery stores, gas stations with their distinctive gasoline smell, and even large department stores. Collecting trading stamps was an indispensable part of daily life for many families. Every time you shopped, the salesperson would give you a small sheet of stamps depending on how much you spent. And then, our job as kids was to carefully stick them into small notebooks. The feeling of carefully pasting each small stamp into the correct slot, watching page after page gradually fill up, was truly a small joy. The whole family would pool stamps together to redeem for all sorts of things, from essential kitchen tools to garden furniture to decorate for family gatherings. Typing class. Before the era of computers and laptops exploded, mastering the typewriter keyboard was a rite of passage for many students. Do you remember those typewriting classes on noisy, clacking typewriters in the classroom? Each lesson was a true test of our patience and accuracy. You had to focus intensely, eyes fixed straight on the book or screen, trying to type the correct keys without looking down at your hands. The entire room would echo with the rhythmic clacking of keys being struck, forming a unique symphony of learning. And then, the satisfying ding of the carriage return when you finished a line. That was a moment of satisfaction, signaling that you had completed a small section and needed to move to the next line. Although technology has advanced tremendously and computers have completely replaced typewriters, the principles of hand positioning, speed, and accuracy still hold true. Do you think manual typing skills are still valuable today? TV sign-off at night. For those who grew up in the 70s, the sight of TV stations signing off for the night was a very familiar part of daily life. Back then, unlike now with 24/7 channels, everything had a schedule. Around 10 p.m., or sometimes a bit later depending on the station, TV channels would begin their nightly shutdown process. First, they would broadcast a flickering test pattern on the screen, usually a complex geometric design with colors and lines for technicians to check signal quality. The faint hum from the TV speakers was also part of that experience. After a few minutes, this image would disappear. Next, a quiet, solemn moment that many of us still remember. The national anthem would play, accompanied by images of a waving flag or beautiful scenes of the country. It was like a solemn signal marking the end of a broadcast day, a farewell from the TV station to its audience. And of course, we can't forget the iconic phrase that any child of that era knew. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? This reminder usually appeared on the screen or was voiced over as a gentle but meaningful reminder to parents to check on their children and their bedtime. It was part of family life, a reminder of responsibility and safety. Christmas catalogs. Just think, before the internet and online shopping clicks, catalogs were an indispensable part of every holiday season. Do you remember the excitement of receiving them in the mail? We would spend hours, sometimes entire afternoons, flipping through the thin pages, exploring worlds filled with dazzling toys, the latest fashion clothes, and all sorts of other treasures we longed for. But among all those catalogs, Christmas catalogs, especially from Sears and J.C. Penney, held a special meaning. They were considered magical books, opening a door to the world of childhood dreams. With bright eyes and pounding hearts, we would carefully circle our favorite toys, then dream about how they would appear under the sparkling Christmas tree. Do you remember the excitement as the holiday season approached? And what catalog memory do you remember most? VHS rentals and video rental stores. To enjoy a movie, first you had to switch the TV channel to channel 3, insert the VHS tape into the VCR, and anxiously pray that the previous renter had remembered to rewind the tape to the beginning. If not, you'd have to patiently wait for the whirring sound of the VCR as it laboriously rewound, sometimes even holding your finger down to fast forward. Video rental stores, affectionately known as video rental stores, were the indispensable destination for our Friday nights. The feeling of walking in, inhaling the characteristic plastic smell of thousands of tapes, and then getting lost in the long aisles with hundreds, thousands of movie titles neatly arranged on shelves, that was a unique experience. We would spend hours browsing genres, reading plot summaries, and trying to make the difficult decision: which movie to choose for this weekend. Nothing compares to the excitement of finally bringing home a carefully selected stack of movies to watch all weekend. The feeling of holding those heavy tapes, imagining the hours of entertainment ahead with family and friends. That was the most anticipated time every weekend. Riding bikes until the streetlights came on. For children growing up in the past decades, summer meant endless hours on their bicycles. It was a time of absolute freedom, of limitless adventures. We would ride our bikes, exploring every nook and cranny of the neighborhood, weaving through trails, crossing open fields, until the familiar and unmistakable signal appeared. The streetlights began to turn on. The click of the streetlight switch and the yellow glow beginning to illuminate each street was the unspoken yet authoritative reminder that it was time to go home. No helmets for protection, no mobile phones for contact. Just the pure freedom of the neighborhood and the cool breeze on our faces. That feeling was hard to describe, a combination of boundless joy and a touch of regret as the fun day was about to end. They would race each other, organize exciting competitions with friends, discover new paths leading to untold secrets, and sometimes simply cruise slowly, enjoying every minute of the twilight. Everything seemed vast and full of potential for discovery. The stories told on bike seats, the crisp laughter echoing in the air, and even the bike falls with minor scrapes, all were part of that memory. Phone books, yellow pages and white pages. Just think, before the world shrunk into a smartphone, finding information was a completely different art. Do you still remember the days when every family owned a thick, heavy phone book as big as a brick? It was both a directory and a carefully categorized treasure trove of information. There were two main types of phone books everyone knew: yellow pages and white pages. Yellow pages were used to find local businesses. Want to find a good restaurant, a reliable plumber, or a flower shop? All were in the yellow pages, scientifically organized by industry. Just flip to the desired section, and you'd find a list of options, along with phone numbers and addresses. Meanwhile, the white pages were a white book, specifically for listing phone numbers of everyone in the area. It was organized alphabetically, by last name and first name. You would scroll through page after page, line after line, until you found the name you needed. Most families back then had a small notebook, or simply a piece of paper taped next to the classic rotary phone, to write down important phone numbers, people we frequently contacted, or sometimes we simply memorized them. Speaking of those phone books, many will surely smile remembering those days of manually, yet interestingly searching for information. Grandma's sofa plastic cover. When it comes to Grandma's house, there's a characteristic smell and feeling that many of us can share. The feeling of sofa plastic covers. This is a memory that most people who grew up in the 70s have. These plastic covers were often found in the homes of grandmothers, mothers, or older people who always wanted to keep their furniture looking new, despite time and the mischief of grandchildren. Their main purpose was to protect valuable sofas and armchairs from dirt, spills, and especially from wear and tear from daily use. They were carefully wrapped, conforming to every contour of the furniture, creating a shiny, sometimes slightly slippery surface. On hot days, this plastic cover would stick to your legs every time you sat down, leaving a clammy and slightly uncomfortable feeling. You'd try to shift a bit to avoid that sticky sensation, but to no avail. And when it was cold, they would crinkle every time you moved, making dry sounds, sometimes even startling you. The swoosh sound when you tried to stand up was also an indispensable part of this experience. Metal lunchboxes. When recalling school days, the metal lunchbox is surely one of the first symbols that comes to mind. These lunchboxes were not merely food containers, but also a statement of each child's personality. They were decorated with images of cartoon characters, superheroes, or characters from our favorite shows and movies. Whether it was Star Wars, Ghostbusters, or any other character, your lunchbox expressed your unique interests and passions. These lunchboxes were very sturdy, strong enough to protect your beloved bologna sandwich from getting crushed, or keep other snacks safe throughout the morning. And of course, we can't forget the matching thermos. That cute little thermos would contain cool fruit juice, milk, or sometimes water, helping us quench our thirst during lunchtime. The clanking sound of the lunchbox when you put it down on the table, the familiar sound of opening the lid, and the feeling of opening it to see the lunch Mom prepared. Those are familiar memories that many of us still cherish. Do you remember your metal lunchbox? Share your memorable story about it in the comments below. Manually finding movie showtimes. Before the internet became the quick information retrieval tool it is today, finding movie showtimes took a bit more effort, but was also uniquely enjoyable. It was a ritual that many of us still remember. There were two main ways you could find out the showtimes for the movie you wanted to see. The first way was to check the detailed movie listings printed in the newspaper. Every day, newspapers would dedicate a section to list all the movies playing in theaters across the city, along with specific showtimes and theater addresses. You would carefully scan each line, search for the movie you liked, and then carefully note down the showtime. The second, and perhaps more interesting way, was to call the movie theater's number directly and listen to an automated recorded message listing the showtimes. It was a small, suspenseful ritual. You'd have to patiently wait to hear the familiar voice of the automated operator, then try to remember or write down the showtime of the movie you wanted, before making detailed plans for your evening out. The operator's voice might be a bit fuzzy, sometimes requiring multiple listens, but that's what made the experience special. Going to the movies back then was truly a special event, a memorable outing. It wasn't just the movie, but also the entire accompanying experience. The delicious smell of popcorn as soon as you entered the lobby, the feeling of sitting in front of the giant big screen, and especially sharing that excitement with friends or family. It was an evening full of laughter, whispered comments, and the feeling of being immersed in the story on the big screen. Film projectors in the classroom. In classrooms of the past, the flickering light and characteristic hum of a film projector were a familiar part of the daily routine. These were moments that the whole class would eagerly await because it signaled that a lesson would become more interesting, more visual, a break from dry lectures on the blackboard. Teachers had to manually thread the film and adjust everything correctly. It was a job that required care and a bit of skill, aligning the film reel in the correct position, threading it through the sprockets, and ensuring the lens was clean. While the teacher was fumbling with the machine, the familiar click of the projector as it started up would echo through the room, a sound every student of that era knew well. It was like a signal that a visual adventure was about to begin. Often, a volunteer student would be called upon by the teacher to assist, mainly to keep the film reel turning smoothly. This seemingly simple task could create unforgettable moments of entertainment for the whole class, especially when the volunteer student clumsily messed up and the film got stuck or fast-forwarded past important scenes. The whole class would erupt in giggles, while the teacher would be both annoyed and trying to remain calm to fix it. Film screenings in the classroom were not just a new way to absorb knowledge, but also fun memories of mishaps, laughter, and unexpected moments. The film projector was not just a learning tool, but also an indispensable part of the school memories of many generations, bringing vivid and memorable lessons. They helped us visualize a larger world and absorb knowledge in a visual, lively way without complex digital technology. Video games Pong and Space Invaders. When it comes to the past decades, one of the things that cannot be overlooked is the birth of the first home video game, Pong. This two-dimensional game, first released by Atari as an arcade machine in 1972, truly changed the entire landscape of the entertainment industry. Pong was a computerized version of table tennis with simple yet strangely addictive graphics. The game involved a small white dot moving back and forth on a black screen, and the player's task was to control two white lines, called paddles, to block and hit the dot back. Every time you hit it, the familiar Pong sound would echo, creating a feeling of ultimate satisfaction. It was a simple yet captivating game, opening a new era of interactive home entertainment. And if you fell in love with Pong, you surely also remember the tense hours trying to destroy enemy ships in Space Invaders. Released a few years after Pong, Space Invaders took the shooting genre to a new level. With rows of enemy ships slowly moving downwards, your mission was to control your cannon, dodge bullets, and shoot down each enemy one by one. The more you shot down, the faster the enemies moved, creating a suffocating pressure. For those who immersed themselves in that simple yet captivating pixelated world, memories of sleepless nights with friends, competing for every score on the black and white screen, are still vivid. Clackers, banned for danger. Among the quirky toys of the past decade, Clackers are certainly one of the most prominent names. Simple looking, extremely difficult to play, and even a bit dangerous. Clackers consisted of two shiny, often brightly colored acrylic balls connected by a sturdy string. The player's task was to hold the string and swing them up and down so that the two balls would hit each other, creating a satisfying clack sound. The goal was to make them continuously hit each other, creating a steady and resonant rhythm. The faster you swung, the louder the noise, and the higher the chance of bruising your hands or wrists. When you reached high speeds, the balls would hit each other forcefully, creating a sharp noise and a vibrating sensation in your hands. There were not a few cases where these balls broke due to excessive impact, or the string snapped, causing them to fly uncontrollably and cause minor accidents. Because of these safety concerns, and some cases of minor injuries to players, Clackers were eventually banned in many places. Their popularity only lasted for a short time, but enough to leave a strong impression in the memories of children of that era. Anyone who tried playing Clackers will surely never forget the feeling of both ear candy from the noise and hand pain from the impact. Schoolhouse Rock. Who would have thought learning could be so fun and engaging, especially on Saturday mornings? For those who grew up with the 70s or 80s, Schoolhouse Rock was an indispensable part of Saturday mornings, interspersed between our favorite cartoon shows. This program did something magical. It embedded education into short, memorable, and extremely catchy animated segments. The songs were cleverly written, turning dry knowledge into lively tunes that children couldn't help but sing along to. For example, Conjunction Junction, What's Your Function? Taught grammar in a fun way, or 3 is a magic number, explained mathematics with cute numbers and images. The best part was that Schoolhouse Rock didn't feel like going to school at all. It was more like a musical and animated show. Children would sit glued to the screen, singing along to the lyrics. And then, naturally, knowledge about history, science, politics, or grammar seeped into their minds without them even realizing it. Songs like I'm Just a Bill explained the process of a bill becoming law, or Electricity, clarified electricity, all presented in an easy-to-understand and memorable way. Do you have a special memory associated with Schoolhouse Rock? Share it with us below. Feathered hair, Farrah Fawcett. Go back decades, there was one hairstyle everyone wanted to try, whether you were a student, an office worker, or just hanging out with friends. That was feathered hair, popularized by Farrah Fawcett and many other stars. This hairstyle was characterized by soft, voluminous waves, flipped outwards on both sides of the face and at the nape of the neck, creating an elegant, relaxed, yet alluring look. It quickly became the ultimate style goal for both men and women, a symbol of sophistication and modernity at the time. But achieving such perfect hair was not easy at all. It required meticulousness and a considerable amount of time. You would need hours with a hairdryer, a large round brush to create volume and curls, and especially an uncountable amount of hairspray to hold the style. The feeling when each strand of hair was perfectly curled and then held in place by hairspray, creating a voluminous and graceful overall look, was a proud achievement. This hairstyle appeared everywhere, in magazines, on TV, and even in daily life. For those who spent hours styling their feathered hair, the memory of its beauty and elaborate nature remains intact. Bell-bottom jeans. If there was one fashion item that truly defined the style of these decades, it definitely had to be bell-bottom jeans. This unique fashion style often appeared in movies, TV shows, and especially on disco dance floors. The distinctive feature of bell-bottoms is that the pant leg is fitted from the thigh to the knee, then suddenly flares out widely at the bottom, creating a bell or trumpet shape. This flare could range from subtle to extremely wide, depending on the style and trend. You could see them everywhere, on every street, and at every event. Everyone wore bell-bottoms, from students to adults. They were often combined with other items strongly imprinted with 70s flair. These could be sky-high platform shoes, helping to add height and create balance with the flared legs, or vibrant, colorful tie-dye shirts, expressing the liberal, peace-loving spirit of the hippie generation. They could also be fringed vests with a strong bohemian style, creating an overall look that was both nostalgic and very modern. Disco music and roller disco. Do you remember that vibrant decade with pulsating music, dazzling lights, and spontaneous dance moves? Back then, disco was the dominant music genre. The pounding drums, strong bass, catchy melodies, and powerful vocals made disco the king of every party, every dance floor. If you were brave enough to step onto a real disco dance floor, you could truly let loose to the sounds of legendary bands like KC and the Sunshine Band, Bee Gees with their timeless hits, or The Tramps with Disco Inferno. The flashing lights, the mirror ball reflecting thousands of sparkling rays, and the electric energy of hundreds of people dancing together. That was a unique experience. Even the legendary rock band Rolling Stones released a disco track to keep up with the trend. That shows the strong influence of this genre. And if that much disco still wasn't enough to satisfy your passion, then you could lace up your skates and head straight to the roller disco rink. This was where disco music was combined with the joy of roller skating. These vibrant parties would be perfect with sparkling sequined outfits, dazzling stage lights, and of course, continuous groovy tunes. The feeling of roller skating to disco music, with lights shining everywhere and the joyful atmosphere spreading, that was an unforgettable memory. 8-track tapes. In the era before CDs, even before cassette tapes, 8-track tapes were the most popular music format. Do you still remember these large, bulky tapes? Their design was quite unique, very different from later formats. Although they had a bulky appearance and sometimes experienced abrupt track changes in the middle of a song, all of that was part of this unique listening experience. You would hear a click as the tape automatically switched to the next track, sometimes interrupting the song you were listening to. However, that was part of the 8-track's unique charm. From exciting road trips, where the whole family listened to favorite albums in the car, to lazy afternoons at home, when you lounged on the sofa and immersed yourself in every melody, 8-track tapes brought music into homes and cars across the country. They became an indispensable companion in every moment of life. With classic albums from artists like Fleetwood Mac and Elton John, 8-track tapes provided the soundtrack for the decade. Songs like Fleetwood Mac's Go Your Own Way or Elton John's Rocket Man were played over and over on these tapes, becoming timeless melodies associated with the memories of a generation. Waterbeds. In the 1970s, owning a waterbed was considered a symbol of coolness in a liberated, free-spirited lifestyle. Instead of traditional springs or foam, these beds were filled with water, creating a unique floating sensation never before experienced. Every time you moved, the water in the mattress would shift, creating gentle ripples, providing a completely different sleeping experience compared to traditional beds. Some people loved the feeling of being buoyant on water, feeling like they were floating on the sea, while others found it a bit wobbly and uncomfortable. Waterbeds quickly became a symbol of the groovy bedroom style of that era. They were often found in rooms decorated with furniture and accessories typical of the 70s. Lava lamps with slow-moving wax bubbles, fluffy shag carpets in vibrant colors, and all sorts of other funky things that created a colorful and personal space for the room's owner. Although not as common today as they once were, the memory of waterbeds remains a charming part, a beautiful imprint in the nostalgic picture of a colorful era. Growing up in the 1960s, 20 things we'll never forget. The 60s were pure magic, full of wild fun, quirky fads, and childhood memories you can't help but smile about. Whether you bounced on a pogo stick, dropped fizzies in your drink, or saved every green and blue chip stamp, those days shaped a generation. Today, let's journey back to 20 unforgettable things that made the 60s truly one of a kind. How many of these do you remember? Pogo sticks. Do you remember that feeling of floating in the air for just a second? With a pogo stick, especially the version known as Hop Rod, the world's first power-boosting pogo stick. Logically, it truly felt like pure magic. For kids growing up in the 60s, a pogo stick wasn't just a regular toy. It was a challenge, a symbol of freedom and simple joy. We spent hours on the sidewalk, trying to keep our balance, then bouncing endlessly, creating the distinctive clicking sound of the spring echoing throughout the neighborhood. Remember trying to pogo your entire way from home to the park without stopping once? That was a proud achievement, a story you'd tell your friends the next day. This game wasn't as easy as it looked. It required coordination, patience, and sometimes even a few scraped knees. But that feeling of gliding through the air, even for a fleeting moment, created a pure moment of childhood joy. As the sunset faded and the clicking of pogo sticks blended with the kids' laughter, that's when we knew we were living fully in an era where all joy came from the simplest things. A pogo stick wasn't just a toy, it was a companion on small daily adventures, an indispensable part of 60s childhood. Ant farms. Were you ever fascinated by a living miniature world right in your room? With an ant farm, we could do just that. This was a popular way for kids back then to get closer to nature, not just a hobby, but a tiny universe to explore. I remember the excitement of pouring those tiny ants into the glass farm, creating the perfect habitat for them. From the very first days, we were captivated watching them dig intricate tunnels, carry food in an organized manner, and work together in an astonishing way. The thrill of seeing a new tunnel being formed, or an ant carrying a piece of food many times its body size, was something no video game could provide. Ant farms were a simple yet captivating way to learn about life, teamwork, and patience. Honestly, having a tiny ant colony living right in your room was amazing. A miniature world full of mystery and wonder. We learned about social structures, diligence, and the life cycle of a tiny creature. It was a practical, hands-on lesson, more vivid than any book, and it planted the seeds of curiosity about the natural world in the hearts of 60s kids. Zebra-striped gum. Do you remember the kind of gum whose flavor vanished faster than you could chew it? That was zebra-striped gum. With its bright, colorful striped wrapper, it stood out from any other gum on the shelf. When you grew up in the 60s, this gum was a must-have in every kid's pocket or backpack. From the first glance, the red, orange, and blue stripes on the wrapper captivated us, promising a unique flavor experience. And indeed, the initial burst of flavor was explosive, sweet, and fruity, but it only lasted for a brief moment. However, that didn't stop us at all. It wasn't about the lasting flavor, but about the joy of tearing open the wrapper, popping the gum into your mouth, and feeling that immediate burst of flavor. It was about sharing a piece with friends, laughing together as the flavor disappeared too quickly, and about that eye-catching, unique wrapper that no one could mistake. Zebra-striped gum was a symbol of fleeting excitement, of small, instant joys in our simple lives back then. It was a memory of creativity, bright colors, and fun moments shared with friends on the playground or right outside our homes. Banana seat bikes. If you grew up in the 60s, you definitely remember those colorful banana seat bikes, the ride of choice for kids. With their long, curved seats and stylish design, these bikes made you feel like you were cruising in style down the street, not just simply pedaling. They were a huge, indispensable part of our childhood. I remember those afternoons, my friends and I showing off our newly acquired bikes with shiny paint and sparkling chrome details. Then, we'd gather, racing around the neighborhood, our laughter and bike bells echoing everywhere. The distinctive banana seat was designed for maximum comfort, allowing you to lean back, relax more, or even give a friend a ride on the long seat. Vibrant colors and accessories like pennant flags and large rear-view mirrors turned these bikes into a true symbol of the 60s. They weren't just a means of transportation, they were a statement of individuality, a tool for exploring the world around us. With a banana seat bike, every road became an adventure, every alley a secret waiting to be discovered. That was a time when the freedom of childhood was defined by 2 wheels and a long, stylish seat, carrying countless unforgettable memories. Soda fountains. Did you ever gather with friends at a place where the clinking of glasses blended with the murmur of conversations and classic tunes from the jukebox? That was the soda fountain, the ideal spot for cool drinks and good times in the 60s. These classic counters were always buzzing, serving everything from elaborate cold sodas to enticing milkshakes. There, people gathered with friends, chatted, and enjoyed their favorite refreshments. The soda jerks, with incredible skill and speed, expertly crafted wonderful drinks in an instant. The sweet taste of fresh cream, the fizz of soda, and the energy-filled atmosphere turned every visit to the soda fountain into a small celebration. It was a place where the simple joys of life were shared, where friendships were built and stories began. The soda fountain wasn't just a restaurant or a cafe. It was a community hub, a symbol of socializing and the carefree moments of youth. It held an irresistible charm, a nostalgic feeling for a time when everything was simple, genuine, and full of meaning. Do you remember the most special drink flavor from the soda fountains back then? Green and blue chip stamps. Did you ever feel like you were on a small treasure hunt right in the supermarket? For those who grew up in the 60s, shopping came with an exciting bonus: trading stamps like green and blue chip stamps. Every time you spent a certain amount at a store, you'd be given these stamps. Then, your task was to carefully paste them into small booklets. The feeling of a filled booklet was incredibly satisfying because it meant you were closer to exchanging them for a new item. These stamps weren't just inert paper. They felt like a small treasure hunt. We could redeem them for all sorts of things, from kitchen tools for Mom to toys we'd always dreamed of. Every trip to the grocery store brought us closer to something new. It was a lesson in patience and the value of saving, conveyed very naturally. The whole family participated in collecting the stamps, flipping through the catalog together to choose the dream gift. They were a part of family culture, a memory of anticipation and the joy of achieving what you wanted after persistent accumulation. Private phone line. Back then, getting a private phone line was a big deal, a real turning point. Do you remember the days when many families shared a party line with neighbors? It was easy to eavesdrop on other people's conversations, and, let's be honest, we had a little fun with that. Did you ever do it? Phone privacy barely existed. If you wanted to talk, you had to wait for your neighbors to finish their call or worry that your conversation would be interrupted at any moment. So, when a family got their own private phone line, it was a moment of freedom and independence. No more waiting, no more worrying about interruptions or eavesdropping. The phone became your private space, where you could talk comfortably with friends for hours, without worrying about curious ears. It was a novel feeling, a luxury not everyone had. Private phone lines changed how we communicated, transforming the telephone from a public utility into a personal tool, opening a new era of connection and privacy in 60s households. Console television. Do you remember the centerpiece of every 60s living room? That was the console television, a large TV set with a heavy wooden frame, often taking up an entire wall and designed as a piece of luxurious furniture. It wasn't just an entertainment device. It was the heart of the home, where the whole family gathered after a long day. The sound from the large built-in speakers echoed throughout the room, and to get the best picture, we had to adjust the rabbit ears, those metal antennae on top of the TV. What was the most special thing? No remote control. You were the remote. When you wanted to change the channel or adjust the volume, a child, often the youngest one, would be sent to perform that task. Despite the effort, it was a magical time to watch TV. The whole family would gather to watch favorite shows like The Ed Sullivan Show or the evening news. It was a communal experience, a daily ritual everyone participated in. It created moments of togetherness, warm memories of a time when family entertainment was a shared, simple, and meaningful event. Fizzy's tablets. Did you ever make your own soda right in your kitchen? With Fizzy's tablets, we could turn a regular glass of water into the 60s instant fun version. In just a few seconds, a tiny tablet could create a fizzy, bubbly, colorful, and delicious drink. For many kids, it was like making your own soda right in your kitchen, a simple magic anyone could perform. Fizzies came in many flavors to choose from orange and lemon to strawberry, and each flavor offered a delightful surprise. The joy wasn't just in the taste, but in the entire fascinating process. You'd drop the tablet into a glass of water, watch it fizz and dissolve, creating tiny bubbles dancing in the glass. It was a favorite way to cool off in the summer after hours of playing in the sun. Fizzies made any occasion feel more special, whether it was a small birthday party or just a relaxing afternoon at home. It brought a sense of creativity and uniqueness, a DIY drink without complex machinery. Metal can opener for soda. Did you ever experience having to battle with a soda can just to enjoy it? Before the convenient pull tabs of today, opening a soda can required a special tool, the metal can opener. It had a pointed end and a flat edge, usually about 4 to 5 inches long, and was often given away by soda or beer companies for promotion. This wasn't as easy as pulling a tab. You had to carefully twist the tool into the can, creating 2 small holes, one for pouring and one for air to enter, helping the liquid flow out more easily. I remember learning this technique from adults, and sometimes it took a few tries to open the can perfectly. That feeling of having to exert force to pry it open, hearing the small pop when the can was opened, then enjoying that first sip of soda. The first sip tasted sweeter after the effort. That was absolutely true. Opening a soda can wasn't just a simple act. It was a small ritual, a part of the experience. It taught us a bit about patience and appreciating the fruits of our labor. The metal can opener was a simple item, but it was a vivid testament to how we interacted with the world around us in an era without today's conveniences. A&W drive-up restaurants. Do you remember the days when food was brought right to your car by a car hop on roller skates? That was the experience at an A&W drive-up restaurant, something truly unique to the 60s. You just pulled into a parking spot, flashed your headlights or honked your horn, and in moments, a car hop would skate up to your car, bringing your hot meal on a tray clipped to your car window. The classic order was a frosty root beer float or a delicious burger. The car hop's roller skates made everything exponentially more exciting. It wasn't just fast food, it was the entire experience, from watching the car hops glide skillfully to enjoying your meal with friends or family in the privacy of your car. The soft music playing from the pole-mounted speakers, the flickering neon lights, and the intimate atmosphere made visits to A&W an unforgettable memory. It was a place where stories were told, laughter echoed, and connections were formed. Paper maps. Did you ever experience the feeling of unfolding a giant paper map, spreading it out on the car hood or kitchen table, and tracing your route with your finger? Before GPS and smartphones, these trusty paper maps were our essential companions. To get anywhere, we had to rely entirely on them for directions. Unfolding the map and planning the route was part of the fun, an indispensable ritual of every trip. We'd spread them out on the car hood or kitchen table, tracing the journey with our fingers and marking towns along the way. There was no zooming in or automatic rerouting like today, just a large, detailed map, sometimes with stubborn creases. Every fold, every stain told a story of past journeys. Although it required meticulousness and good directional skills, using paper maps provided a deeper sense of self-reliance and connection to the journey. I still have a few tucked away in my glove compartment, and with them, I never have to worry about losing signal or having no internet. Paper maps weren't just tools, they were a symbol of spontaneous adventures, of exploration, and of an era where every trip was a true journey, requiring preparation and a little bit of adventurous spirit. Photographic slides and projectors. Do you remember those evenings when the whole family gathered, turned off the lights, and special moments suddenly came alive on the living room wall. That was the experience with photographic slides and projectors, the best way to relive and share precious memories. After every memorable summer vacation or cozy family gathering, our living room would be filled with excitement as the projector clicked through each slide, bringing vivid memories to the wall. There was something magical about seeing those moments unfold before your eyes, one slide at a time. It wasn't just about looking at pictures. It was a social ritual, a communal storytelling session that everyone participated in. We laughed together at funny pictures, pondered emotional moments together, and relived sweet memories together. The gentle click of the projector as it changed slides, the shimmering light illuminating the room, and the vividly retold stories created a warm, intimate atmosphere. They were time machines, taking us back to past moments, rekindling emotions, and connecting family members through the flow of memories. Among these keepsakes, do you still hold on to anything? And what is the most memorable memory associated with it? Family dinner. Do you remember those family dinners back then? That's when everyone gathered around the table, sharing stories about their day. Family life was the foundation of society in the 60s, with a strong emphasis on bonding and routine. Dinner wasn't just a meal, it was a daily ritual, an opportunity to connect and share. I remember the gentle clinking of dishes, the delicious smell of food wafting through the house, and the endless conversations. There were no cell phones to interrupt, no noisy TV in the living room. Attention was completely focused on each other. It was where we learned how to listen, how to share the day's joys and sorrows, and how to resolve small life problems. Parents often asked about school, friends, and our dreams. Dinner was when we were nourished, not just physically, but also emotionally, through advice, jokes, and warm hugs. Values like respect, gratitude, and family love were forged right at this dinner table. Family dinner was a symbol of stability and security, a precious memory of a time when family connection was the center of everything. National Anthem TV sign-off. Do you still remember that solemn moment when TV stations signed off for the night? After hours of entertainment, news, and commercials, the TV screen would slowly fade to black and the U.S. National Anthem would echo throughout the room. It was a familiar routine, a moment marking the end of the day and signaling it was time for bed. The stirring sound of the anthem, along with the image of the stars and stripes appearing on screen, created a quiet, reflective atmosphere. People often paused what they were doing, perhaps to reflect on the day's events, or simply to honor their country. For many, it was a familiar, comforting routine before the static took over until morning. It wasn't just a signal that just had ended. It was a reminder of patriotism, of the values we cherished. The National Anthem TV sign-off was an indispensable part of 60s childhood, a peaceful and meaningful moment, bringing a sense of safety and stability before drifting off to sleep. It was a symbol of an era where everything had its own rhythm, from beginning to end. Ubiquitous smoking culture. Do you remember a time when smoking was as common as drinking coffee? The 60s was an era when smoking was accepted almost everywhere. You could smoke on airplanes, in restaurants, even in hospitals. It wasn't just a personal habit, but also a part of the culture, a symbol of maturity and style. I remember cigarette advertisements with glamorous actors, cigarette brands becoming a part of many people's identity. Smoke lingered in the air in most public spaces, and no one questioned it. What's even more astonishing is that even pregnant women smoked, despite the health risks we now clearly understand. Whether you were relaxing with friends or on a work break, smoking was everywhere. The smell of cigarette smoke was a familiar scent in cafes, offices, and homes. This ubiquitous smoking culture is a testament to the profound differences in health awareness and social norms between the 60s and today. It is a part of history, a memory of a time when information and knowledge about the harms of tobacco were not as widely disseminated as they are now. The 1969 moon landing event. Do you remember one of those moments you'll never forget? That's when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the surface of the moon in 1969, and we all thought, wow, we're actually doing this. The whole world held its breath, watching this historic event on black and white TV screens. What seemed impossible became reality, a testament to human intellect and perseverance. Even if you were too young to understand all the technical details, you still knew something big was happening. A feeling of excitement, pride, and hope filled the air. That one small step for man felt like one giant leap for everyone. It wasn't just about the moon. It was the feeling that anything was possible. This event inspired a generation, making us believe in wonders and dare to dream bigger dreams. The moon landing was the pinnacle of the 60s, a moment when humanity transcended its own limits, leaving an indelible mark on history and in the memories of those who witnessed it. Which of these 60s artifacts do you think is irreplaceable in today's world? Black and white TV. Following up on the console TV, do you remember those big black and white TVs that held center stage in our living rooms throughout the 60s? Though they came in various sizes, they all offered a shared viewing experience, simple yet profound. With only a few channels to choose from, often local stations, everyone in the neighborhood and even across the country watched the same shows. This created common cultural experiences, conversation topics that never ran dry the next day. The whole family would gather to watch shows like The Andy Griffith Show, Bewitched, and The Twilight Zone. Although there were no vibrant colors, the stories, characters, and messages conveyed by these programs were incredibly vivid in our minds. The soft static when there was no signal, the images sometimes blurry or ghosted, were all part of the experience. It was our window to the world, where we laughed together, learned together, and shared memorable moments. It taught us to value content over form, and it left an indelible mark on the soul of a generation. Drive-in theater. Did you ever experience a quintessential 60s evening at a drive-in movie theater? It wasn't just about watching a movie. It was an entire event. You'd drive to the giant outdoor screen, park in one of the spacious spots, and tune your car radio to hear the movie through a small speaker hooked to your car window. It was a unique sense of freedom, an experience completely different from a traditional movie theater. Your family could bring blankets and homemade snacks, turning the car into a cozy space. Friends or couples could enjoy the chance to relax in the back seat, chat, and share the moment together. The sounds of laughter echoing from neighboring cars, the faint smell of popcorn in the air, and thousands of stars twinkling in the night sky created a magical atmosphere. A drive-in wasn't just a movie, it was an event, where cinematic magic came alive in the open air. It was a symbol of romance, first dates, and carefree summer nights. Drive-ins didn't just show movies, they created memories we'll forever cherish. World Book Encyclopedia. Do you still remember the primary reference source for exploring the world before Google? That was the World Book Encyclopedia. Owning a complete set of encyclopedias was a big deal, like having the whole world at your fingertips. Kids like us loved flipping through the thick, colorful pages filled with vibrant illustrations and fascinating facts. Whether for homework or simply to satisfy the boundless curiosity of childhood, these books were a treasure trove of knowledge. The whole family often gathered around the set, searching for answers to tricky questions or sharing interesting information they had just discovered. It was our window to knowledge before Google, a wonderful tool to explore everything from ancient history to astronomy, from biology to geography. Each book was a doorway to a new world, encouraging us to read, learn, and think. It was a silent teacher, a source of inspiration, and a symbol of the pursuit of knowledge in an era when information wasn't always as readily accessible as it is now. The music of the 60s. If you grew up in the 60s, you definitely won't forget the feeling of rock and roll music echoing through the living room from those record players, with hits by the Beatles, Rolling Stones, and Motown. It was an era where life seemed slower, simpler, yet held countless wonders. Like an old friend telling stories in the living room, I want to take you back to that time, when music wasn't just melodies, but an entire experience. Imagine the whole family gathered around your record player, carefully placing a vinyl record on the turntable and lowering the needle. The familiar crackle before the warm, vibrant melodies of hits from the Beatles, Rolling Stones, or Motown filled the room. This wasn't just listening to music, it was a familiar ritual. You might also remember the feeling of poring over album covers, larger-than-life works of art, expressing the band's personality. Music back then wasn't just for listening, it was for feeling, for living with. The music of the 60s shaped an entire generation, from the transistor radios you carried everywhere, to the jukeboxes at vibrant soda fountains, where the clinking of glasses blended with the murmur of conversations and classic tunes. When life was simpler, music was the voice of a new era, evoking a sense of familiarity and nostalgia. And how could we forget great music festivals like Woodstock? It wasn't just a musical event, it was a defining moment where 500,000 people gathered for 3 days of peace, love, and music. Woodstock truly was a symbol of the counterculture movement, embodying a feeling that anything was possible. It was where the spirit of freedom and hope soared, a giant leap for everyone. Even if you didn't understand all the details, you still knew something big was happening. The things we've just revisited aren't just items or habits. They are precious pieces that make up the childhood tapestry of a generation. They may have receded into the past, but we will certainly never forget them. Every small detail, from the clicking sound of a pogo stick to the distinctive scent of an encyclopedia, is a doorway to memories of a bygone era. A time when life seemed to have a different rhythm, a simplicity and authenticity hard to find today. These memories are invaluable, and sharing them helps us preserve a part of our common history. Each item, each experience carries its own story, a small piece that creates the complete picture of a colorful and meaningful decade. Those were days when everything seemed slower, simpler, but full of joy and genuine connection. So, we have traveled together through a beautiful part of the memories of days gone by. These moments, though seemingly simple in the eyes of the current generation, shaped an entire generation and left an indelible mark in the minds of many. So, what childhood memory do you remember most? If you enjoyed this trip, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting journey. Thank you for watching.